Good afternoon to one and all. I am R.V. Kiran, Assistant Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Chevron Engineering College. Today in this class, we are going to discuss about the topic unit cell, which is in the first unit of Metallurgy and Material Science, and this is my 11th class regarding to the subject Metallurgy and Materials Science. So in the earlier classes, we have discussed about the types of bonds. So what is the properties of bonds, and what are the types, that is the classification in bonds. So what is an ionic bond, what is a covalent bond, and what is a metallic bond. So we have clearly discussed about this topic. Today we are going step further and discuss about the unit cell. So which is an important topic to the basics of metallurgy. So first of all, what is a crystalline solid? So for defining the unit cell, we need to know what is a crystalline solid. So these crystalline solids are well ordered, have definite arrangements of molecules, atoms or ions. So in this segment, you can see the different types of crystals presenting in it. So ordered arrangements of molecules, atoms or ions. So in this structure, in the below picture, you can see the different types of arrangements and its structure. So this structure contains arrangement of molecules, atoms or ions. So this is a definite type of structure. So that means a crystalline solids are well ordered. So this is a piece of diamond here. So this consists of good arrangement of molecules, atoms or ions in its structure. So that is the basic one. And next to it, what is a unit cell? So the smallest repeating unit in a crystal is a unit cell. So the small type of repeating units. So we have already studied about the repeating units in the polymer. So what is mean by polymers? Means poly means many, mer means repeated units. So many repeated units of the crystals. So that's why here also the smallest repeating unit in a crystal is called as a unit cell. So that is the short form of the unit cell structure. And this unit cell is the smallest unit with all the symmetry of the entire crystal. So with all the symmetry of the entire crystal. So here you can see the different types of crystal structures here. So in the unit cell form, there is a different types of crystal structures you can see in the picture. And below that, there is the different crystalline structures. So first one is the isometric, second one hexagonal, third one is the tetragonal, fourth one trigonal, next one orthorhombic, monoclinic, and last one is the triclinic. So these are the different types of repeating units in a crystal structure, which is known as a unit cell. So unit cell can form in these different shapes in the crystalline structure. So that is about the unit cell concept. So these unit cell are the smallest repeating units in a crystal with all the symmetry of a entire crystal. So it is the smallest unit with all the symmetry of the entire crystal. So you can see the isometric structure here, which is in the form of a cube. So cube contains 6 faces, and when you see it from the front, it is shown in the form of a rectangle or a square. So these isometry in the form of a cube. Next, coming to the hexagonal, it, it shows the forms of hexagon shape from the front view and bottom view. But seeing from the front view, it is seen as a rectangle. So that is about hexagonal. Next one is the tetragonal shape. So tetragonal is similar to isometric, but this is in the form of cuboid. So this is in the form of cuboid. You can see it in the picture. Next, trigonal. Trigonal means the inclined form of the cube is known as the trigonal shape. The inclined form of the cube is known as the trigonal. Next one is the orthorhombic. So this is also in the form of cuboid, but it is has rectangular faces in it. All the faces are rectangular, but except two sides. So that is the shape of orthorhombic. Next is the monoclinic. So in the monoclinic, the inclined form of the cuboid shape is known as monoclinic. So you can see it in the picture. The inclined form of the cuboid shape is called as monoclinic. And last one is the triclinic. So this is also in the inclined position, which has some angle forms. So this is about the unit cell and its different forms. Next, unit cell, a small volume of a crystal that can be used to reproduce the entire crystal is called as a unit cell. So a small volume of a crystal that can be used to reproduce the entire crystal is known as a unit cell. So it is already seen in the last slides, earlier slides, but it is not a unique entity. So it does not contains a unique entity, but it is similar to the other structures. When a unit cell is repeatedly translated to fill all of the 2D and 3D space, that is two-dimensional space and three-dimensional space, the vertices of the all cells, so the vertices of the all the unit cells in the filled space constitute a lattice, so which contains a lattice structure. So that is from the all the vertices of all the unit cells. So that is known as a lattice or space lattice. So from the unit cell, we obtain the crystal structure called as space lattice, that is formed by the filled space between the crystals. Next one, what is mean by a lattice? So the periodic arrangement of atoms in a crystal is known as a lattice. Periodic arrangement means specific arrangement in an order of atoms. So the periodic arrangement of atoms is called as specific order or specific shape. That is called the arrangement of atoms in a crystal. So these locations of atoms are called as lattice points. So the location of atoms are called as lattice points. Next, lattice points are the dots used to represent a particular atomic array in a crystal. So, these lattice points are the edges or the collisions used to represent a particular atomic array, which is known as dots in a crystal structure, that is called as lattice points. Next, the point can be an atom or a group of atoms or an ion or a molecule. So they can be considered as, the point can be an atom, a group of atoms, an ion or a molecule. Next, a small volume of a crystal that can be used to reproduce the entire crystal is called as a unit cell. So these small volumes of a structure that can be repeatedly used to reproduce the entire crystal is called as a unit cell. But it is not a unique entity. So we have already discussed about the unique entity. So this is not an unique entity. Next, when a unit cell is repeatedly translated to fill all of the 2D or 3D space, that is two-dimensional space or three-dimensional space, the vertices of the all unit cells in the filled space constitute a lattice. So we have already discussed in the earlier slide that all the vertices of the unit cells in the filled shape constitute a lattice structure, that is the space lattice. Next, next, a unit cell is a small volume of crystal that can be used to reproduce the entire crystal. So this unit cell is a small volume of the crystal that can be used to reproduce the entire crystals. So by adding the small volumes in the structure of the crystal, it can be used to reproduce the entire crystal. Reproduce means repeated units. So when you have seen the repeated units in the crystal, it is going to reproduce the entire crystal. Next, a unit cell is not a unique entity. We have already discussed. Next, in 3D, that is three-dimensional structures, non-primitive cells are of three kinds. So primitive structures come under the 2D structure only, but in the non-primitive cells are of three kinds. That is end-centered, face-centered, and body-centered. So there have been divided into three types. That is the end-centered, face-centered, and body-centered. First, going to the end-centered. So this is an extra lattice point which is at the centered in each of the two opposing faces of cell. So that is at the two opposing faces of the cell, that is at the corner point. So ఎండ్ సెంటర్డ్ అంటేనమ్మా మనకి కార్నర్ పాయింట్స్ లో ఉంటుంది మనకి. సో కార్నర్ పాయింట్స్ లో అనేది ఒక ఎక్స్ట్రా లాటిస్ పాయింట్ అనేది మనకి సెంటర్ లో కానీ అబ్జర్వ్ అయితే టూ అపోజింగ్ ఫేసెస్ నుంచి ఒక సెల్ గాని క్రియేట్ అయితే దాన్ని ఎండ్ సెంటర్డ్ అంటున్నాం అనమాట. సో దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ యాజ్ ఎండ్ సెంటర్డ్. నెక్స్ట్ కమింగ్ టు ది face centered. So an extra lattice point is centered in every face of the cell. So that means I am taking an example here. A cube has 6 faces, so each on every direction and top and bottom face, that is 6 phases. So these extra lattice point is formed in the center of the every face of the cell. That is, in a cube there are 6 face centered cells in a cube or cuboid. That means if it has 6 faces, the extra cells face down each cell is 6. It is then 6 to the cuboid shape also. So for the cuboid shape also it remains the same. But when coming to the body centered, so when coming to the body centered structure, an extra lattice point is centered in the exact middle of the cell. That is, the lattice point is formed in the exact center of the body. So in a cube there is only one lattice structure, but in a cuboid also it contains only one lattice structure. It means from each every corner to the other corner of existing point there forms a unit cell or a lattice point which is at the center of the body. So that these are the three types of non-primitive cells, that is the end centered, face centered and body centered. Next, coming to the interfacial angles in the unit cell. So the interfacial angles of the units are defined to be 3 angles structure in the 3-dimensional analysis. So in the picture you can see a cube unit cell, that is a unit cell which contains in the form of a structure cube. So there you can see the 3 axes, that is A axis, B axis and C axis. So A, B, C are the 3 axis points or 3 axis lines. So the angle between the A and C point is beta. So it covered to an angle of beta between the A and C axis lines. When coming to the A and B, that is A and B axis lines, the angle produced is gamma. So here you can see the gamma angle here. So the angle produced is the gamma. Next, coming to the B and C points, that is B and C unit cell axis lines, the angle formed is the alpha. So these are the 3 types of angles formed in the interfacial angles. So that is in the structure of the unit cell in the 3-dimensional, that is in the 3D. So similarly, the interfacial angles of the unit cell are defined to be, so we have done with three angles, that is alpha angle, beta angle, and the gamma angle. So first one, coming to the alpha angle, the angle is between the edges B and C. So you can see it in the picture there. The angle is between the B and C points. And next, coming to the beta angle, the angle is between the A and C. So that is beta angle is between the A and C points. Lastly, gamma angle, the angle becomes, the angle is between the edges A and B. So these are the three different types of angles in the interfacial angles of unit cell, that is alpha, beta, and gamma. Alpha, beta, and gamma angles. Next one is the concept of unit cells. So let us know about the some of the important points in the concept of unit cells. First one is the concept of unit cells is extended to a three-dimensional lattice. So generally the concept of unit cells is extended to a three-dimensional lattice only because it is formed in the three-dimensional lattice, that is three-dimensional structures only. Next, for example, the unit cell of a sheet of identical postage stamps is a single stamp. So they are taking the unit cell of a sheet of identical postage stamps as a single stamp, and the unit cell of stack of bricks is a single brick, that is unit cell of stack of bricks is a single brick. So these unit cells are easiest to visualize in the two dimensions. So generally unit cells are very easy to see in the two-dimensional way rather than the three-dimensional way. It is easily seen in the two-dimensional way, and usually the smallest unit cell that completely describes the order is chosen. So generally the smallest unit cell that describes the order, that describes the structure also, is chosen easily. Last one, the only requirement for a valid unit cell is that repeating unit, and it is in the space which must provide the regular lattice structure. So that is the only requirement of a unit cell rather than the other repeating structure of units which must provide the regular lattice structure. So that is the basic requirement of the unit cell. So this is all about the unit cells and its structures. And in the next class, we are going to discuss about the space lattice. So that is the space lattice structure. In that, we are going to get the detailed information about the different types of structures, that is face centered cubic, body centered cubic, and the hexagonal close packed structure. So these are the three different forms of structures which can be formed during a production of the unit cell or the crystal. So the formation of the unit cell in a crystal. So that are the three basic shapes, that is body centered cubic BCC, face centered cubic FCC, and hexagonal close packed structure HCP. So that is all about the concepts of unit cells. Thank you.